Her shift was almost over, every ache in her feet a testament to the endless demands of the elite steakhouse. Rachel, a waitress who dreamed of more, moved through the opulent dining room, invisible to most. But then she overheard it, a cruel laugh, a whispered insult from a young man who thought himself superior, mocking her very existence as just a server. Little did he know, his cunning words weren't just heard by Rachel. They echoed across the next table, straight to the ears of his father, a self-made billionaire with a surprising sense of justice. What happened the next day wasn't just a sudden firing, it was a life-altering promotion that would prove dignity always triumphs over arrogance, and that some dreams are forged in the most unexpected of fires. Before we carry on, please hit the subscribe button to make my day, and let me know where you are watching from in the comments. The soft glow of the chandeliers in the gilded plate cast a warm, inviting light across the hushed dining room, illuminating the pristine white tablecloths and the gleaming silverware. The air was rich with the subtle aromas of prime rib, truffle oil, and expensive wine, a symphony of scents designed to entice the city's most discerning palates. Rachel, at 24, navigated this opulent world with a practiced grace, her uniform impeccable, her smile unfailingly polite, even as her feet throbbed beneath her sensible black shoes. Being a waitress at the Gilded Plate wasn't just a job, it was an education in human nature, a daily masterclass in humility and resilience. Each evening, she served the city's elite, the titans of industry, the socialites, the politicians, all cloaked in an aura of effortless wealth. Rachel observed them, their conversations, their mannerisms, their subtle displays of power, absorbing lessons she knew she couldn't learn in any classroom. Her own dreams, tucked away carefully in the quiet corners of her mind, involved a future far beyond carrying trays, a future where she could shape her own destiny, perhaps even one day managing a place as grand as this, though that seemed like an impossibly distant fantasy. Tonight, the restaurant was buzzing with its usual Friday night crowd. Rachel was in the midst of a double shift, the cumulative fatigue a dull ache in her shoulders. She expertly balanced a tray of crystal glasses, her focus unwavering as she moved between tables. Her section included a particularly challenging table of young, boisterous men, clearly from affluent backgrounds, their laughter a little too loud, their conversation a little too self-important. They were celebrating something, perhaps a new business deal or a significant inheritance, their voices carrying easily in the otherwise refined atmosphere. As Rachel approached the table, she overheard a fragment of their conversation, spoken by one of the young men, Blake. He was a strikingly handsome man, in his late 20s, with slicked-back dark hair and an air of entitled confidence that bordered on arrogance. He was leaning back in his chair, a half-empty glass of expensive whiskey in his hand, his eyes following Rachel's movements with a dismissive smirk. "Honestly, I don't know how people do it," Blake scoffed, his voice dripping with condescension, loud enough for those nearby to hear, but seemingly directed at his companions. "Working these kinds of jobs, just serving, day in, day out, no ambition, no drive. Can you imagine being just a server your entire life?" He let out a short, derisive laugh, and his friends chuckled along, a chorus of privileged amusement. "It's pathetic, really. Some people just aren't built for anything more, I guess." The words, though not directly addressed to her, landed like a cold slap. Rachel felt a flush rise on her neck, a hot wave of indignation. Her fingers tightened imperceptibly around the edge of her tray. Just a server. The casual cruelty of his dismissal. The effortless way he demeaned her profession, her efforts, her very worth, stung deeply. It wasn't just about her. It was about every hard-working individual who poured their heart into their labor, often out of necessity, often while harboring dreams far larger than their current circumstances. Suggested. For a fleeting second, a sharp retort formed on her tongue, a fiery challenge to his ignorant arrogance. But years of working in high-end hospitality had taught Rachel the invaluable lesson of composure. Reacting would only lower herself to his level, validating his condescension. It would also likely cost her her job, a luxury she couldn't afford. She had bills to pay, responsibilities that far outweighed a rich boy's fleeting insult. So, Rachel did what she always did. She took a deep, silent breath, forcing the anger down, replacing it with her practiced, serene professionalism. She straightened her posture, her head held high, and continued her duties as if she hadn't heard a single word. She approached the adjacent table, a table occupied by a single, distinguished gentleman, impeccably dressed, his silver hair neatly combed, his eyes, sharp and intelligent, observing the room with a quiet intensity. He had been dining alone for most of the evening, and Rachel had noticed his observant nature, his quiet attentiveness to his surroundings. What Rachel didn't know, what Blake certainly didn't know, was that this distinguished gentleman, seated directly within earshot of Blake's cruel remarks, was Frederick Sterling, Blake's father. Frederick Sterling was a self-made billionaire, a titan of the hospitality industry, the very man who owned the Gilded Plate, and indeed, the entire global chain of Sterling Hospitality Group properties. He had built his empire from the ground up, starting from humble beginnings, and he had an unshakable belief in hard work, integrity, and respect for every individual, regardless of their role. He had been quietly observing his son all evening, a growing disappointment etching itself onto his features. And he had heard every single word Blake had uttered. Rachel efficiently cleared the gentleman's dessert plate, her movements fluid and quiet. "Would there be anything else for you this evening, sir?" she asked, her voice calm and professional, despite the lingering sting of Blake's words. Frederick Sterling looked up at her, his gaze intense, assessing, yet surprisingly kind. He noted the subtle tension in her shoulders, the faint blush on her cheeks, a clear sign that she had indeed heard his son's offensive remarks. He also noted her remarkable composure, her dignified silence in the face of such blatant disrespect. "No, thank you, dear," Frederick replied, his voice a low, gravelly rumble. "Everything was excellent, and your service, impeccable as always. You handle challenging situations with admirable grace." His gaze flickered meaningfully towards Blake's table, a silent acknowledgement of what he had overheard. Rachel met his gaze briefly, a flicker of understanding passing between them, a silent acknowledgement that he had heard, and that he understood. She offered a small, grateful smile, a subtle nod of thanks for his unspoken support. "Thank you, sir," she said softly, then moved away to attend to her other tables, finishing her shift with the same unwavering dedication, her internal turmoil carefully masked. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of orders, dishes, and polite interactions. Rachel left the restaurant that night, the fatigue weighing heavily on her, but the sting of Blake's words still lingering. She pushed it aside, reminding herself that her worth wasn't defined by the ignorant opinions of arrogant men. She had bills to pay, dreams to chase, and a strength within her that no amount of condescending laughter could diminish. She had no idea that the quiet, observing man at the next table held the key to unlocking a future she could only ever dream of. The following morning dawned with an unusual crispness in the air, a stark contrast to the stifling humidity of the previous night. Rachel awoke with the familiar weight of the coming day pressing down on her, the memory of Blake's sneering laughter a dull throb in her consciousness. She had an early shift at a small cafe downtown, a side job she took on to supplement her income from the Gilded Plate. Her schedule was relentless, a continuous loop of work, barely leaving time for rest, let alone reflection on dreams that often seemed too distant to grasp. As she dressed in the quiet solitude of her small apartment, Rachel mentally rehearsed her day, the breakfast rush at the cafe, then a quick bus ride to the Gilded Plate for her afternoon shift. The prospect of seeing Blake again, should he dine there, brought a fresh wave of irritation. She tried to dismiss it, to focus on the tasks ahead, on the simple necessity of earning enough to keep her head above water. Meanwhile, across town, in the gleaming glass and steel skyscraper that housed the global headquarters of Sterling Hospitality Group, a different kind of morning was unfolding. Blake, still radiating the entitled arrogance that was his birthright, arrived late, strolling into the executive suite as if he owned the place. In truth, he barely held a mid-level marketing position, a ceremonial role given to him by his father, Frederick Sterling, more out of familial obligation than genuine merit. Blake's work ethic was as flimsy as his understanding of the hospitality industry. His days were largely spent delegating, attending superficial meetings, and basking in the reflected glory of his father's empire. He whistled a jaunty tune as he passed his assistant's desk, expecting a stack of reports or a schedule of unimportant appointments. Instead, his assistant, a perpetually flustered woman named Sarah, looked up with wide, sympathetic eyes. "Mr. Blake," she began, her voice unusually subdued. "Your father. He wants to see you in the main boardroom. Immediately. He said it's urgent." Blake frowned. "The boardroom? What for? I have a golf game at 11. He glanced at his watch. "Tell him I'll be there after lunch." Sarah shook her head, her expression grim. "He said immediately, Mr. Blake. And he didn't sound like he was in a mood to be put off. It sounded serious." A flicker of unease finally pierced Blake's usual self-assurance. His father rarely summoned him to the boardroom, a place reserved for high-stakes corporate decisions, not casual chats. Frederick Sterling was a man of immense power, rarely given to displays of emotion, but when he was displeased, his displeasure was a force of nature. Blake squared his shoulders, pushing down the nascent anxiety. Whatever it was, he could charm his way out of it, as he always did. He strode into the boardroom, the vast, polished table reflecting the imposing city skyline outside. Frederick Sterling stood at the head of the table, his back to the door, gazing out at the view. His posture was ramrod straight, his silver hair catching the morning light. The air in the room was heavy, thick with unspoken tension. Blake had never seen his father so utterly still, so devoid of his usual restless energy. "Father?" Blake began, a hint of false cheer in his voice. "Sarah said you wanted to see me? Is everything all right?" Frederick turned slowly, his piercing blue eyes, identical in color to Blake's, but infinitely deeper, colder, fixed on his son. There was no warmth in his gaze, no familial affection, only a profound, chilling disappointment. "Blake," Frederick said, his voice quiet, almost eerily calm, a stark contrast to the booming confidence he typically exuded. "Take a seat." He gestured to the chair directly opposite him at the long table. Blake, sensing the shift in his father's demeanor, complied, a nervous tremor starting in his stomach. He tried to meet his father's gaze, but found himself looking away, suddenly unnerved. "Last night," Frederick began, his voice still low, "I dined at the Gilded Plate, table 7. Blake felt a jolt of recognition. "Oh, yes! Good food, as always. My friends and I were celebrating a new deal, Father. Big potential." He tried to shift the conversation to his supposed accomplishments, to deflect the unspoken tension. Frederick held up a hand, silencing him. "I wasn't there to critique the food, Blake. I was observing. I observed the staff. I observed the clientele. And I observed you." His eyes narrowed, a glacial chill entering his voice. "I heard what you said, Blake, about just a server, about people lacking ambition, about their lives being pathetic." Blake's face paled. A wave of sick realization washed over him. He had been so careless, so dismissive. He stammered, "Father, it was just locker room talk, nothing serious. I was just blowing off steam with my friends. You know how it is, just a joke." "A joke?" Frederick's voice hardened, each word sharp, precise, like cutting glass. Do you have any idea, Blake, the foundation upon which this entire empire was built? It was built on the sweat of my brow, on long hours, on humble beginnings. It was built on the respect I showed every single person, from the dishwasher to the general manager. It was built on understanding that every role, every individual, contributes to the whole, and that no one is just anything. He leaned forward, his hands flat on the polished table, his voice rising, gaining the formidable power Blake had rarely heard directed at him. You, Blake, have never had to work for anything in your life. You have been handed every opportunity, every privilege, and you squander it with arrogance, with a contemptible disrespect for the very people who make this company run, the very people who are the backbone of the hospitality industry. Frederick straightened, his gaze unyielding. I built Sterling Hospitality on a principle that true leadership is defined by humility, by integrity, and by the ability to recognize worth in everyone, regardless of their station. You, my son, embody none of those qualities. You are an embarrassment to the Sterling name and a liability to this company. Blake's mouth opened, but no words came out. A knot of icy dread tightened in his stomach. Effective immediately, Blake, Frederick stated, his voice devoid of emotion. Your employment with Sterling Hospitality Group is terminated. You are to clear out your office by noon. Your company car will be collected by the end of the day, and your company credit cards will be deactivated. Blake stared, utterly stunned. Fired? Father, you can't be serious. This is my future. I'm your son. Your future, Blake, Frederick retorted, his voice cold, is whatever you choose to make of it, now that you will have to make it for yourself, my son or not. I will not tolerate disrespect and arrogance within my company, especially from within my own family. You have learned nothing, despite all the opportunities I've given you. Perhaps now, you will learn the true value of a temkran, day's work. Perhaps now, you will learn respect. He turned and walked back to the window, his back to his son, signaling the finality of his decision. Blake sat there, shattered, his world crumbling around him. The privilege, the easy life, the assumed future, had just been irrevocably snatched away, a direct consequence of a casual, cruel insult aimed at just a server. Meanwhile, Rachel, having finished her shift at the cafe, was on the bus heading towards the Gilded Plate, preparing herself for another afternoon of service. Her phone buzzed. It was a call from the restaurant manager, Mr. Henderson. Rachel, can you come in a little earlier than your scheduled shift? Mr. Sterling, the owner, wants to have a word with you, in his private office, immediately. Mr. Henderson's voice was unusually strained, tinged with a mix of awe and trepidation. Rachel's heart leaped into her throat. Mr. Sterling? The owner? Her mind raced. Had she done something wrong? Had Blake complained about her? A cold wave of fear washed over her, replacing the weariness. This could only mean trouble. Her dismissal from the Gilded Plate, the dream she hadn't quite realized she was chasing, now seemed imminent. She gripped her phone tighter, the bus rumbling beneath her, carrying her towards an uncertain, potentially devastating future. The journey to the Gilded Plate, usually a mundane commute, felt laden with a palpable sense of dread for Rachel. Her mind raced, conjuring every possible scenario, each more dire than the last. Had Blake Sterling, the billionaire's son, complained about her? Had her defiance cost her the job? The only one that truly offered a pathway, however narrow, to her larger aspirations? The Gilded Plate, with its refined atmosphere and prestigious clientele, was more than just a workplace. It was a stepping stone, a crucial part of the mental roadmap she had meticulously crafted for her future in Prickant. Hospitality management. Losing it felt like losing a piece of her very self. She arrived at the restaurant, her stomach churning with nerves. Mr. Henderson, the manager, a man usually flustered and prone to nervous fidgeting, met her at the entrance. Today, however, he was surprisingly composed, his face pale, but his eyes wide with a mixture of awe and something akin to excitement. He spoke in hushed tones, almost reverently. "Rachel, thank goodness you're here. Mr. Sterling is waiting for you in his private dining room, immediately." He gestured towards a discreet door at the back of the main dining hall, a room reserved for the most exclusive clientele, a space Rachel had only ever glimpsed through a crack in the door. Rachel's apprehension intensified. This wasn't a standard disciplinary meeting. This was something far more significant, far more unusual. She straightened her uniform, took a deep, fortifying breath, and walked towards the ornate wooden door, her heart hammering against her ribs. She pushed open the heavy door to reveal a smaller, exquisitely appointed dining room. A single table, set for two, stood in the center, bathed in the soft glow of a crystal chandelier. And seated at the table, his back to the door, was the distinguished silver-haired gentleman from last night, Frederick Sterling himself. He turned as she entered, his piercing blue eyes, no longer merely observant, now held a deep, unreadable intensity. "Rachel," Frederick Sterling said, his voice a low, calm rumble. He gestured to the empty chair opposite him. "Please, have a seat. Thank you for coming on such short notice." Rachel, still reeling from the unexpected formality, cautiously took the seat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She felt a profound sense of intimidation, but also a growing curiosity. Whatever was happening, it was far beyond a simple complaint. "Mr. Sterling," Rachel began, her voice a little shaky, but she forced herself to meet his gaze. "Mr. Henderson said you wished to speak with me. Is there a problem?" She braced herself for the inevitable bad news. Frederick Sterling leaned back in his chair, a faint, almost imperceptible smile touching his lips. "Quite the contrary, Rachel. There is no problem. In fact, what transpired last night revealed a solution." He paused, his gaze unwavering. "I believe you overheard my son, Blake, making some derogatory remarks about your profession." Rachel felt a fresh wave of heat rise to her cheeks. She nodded, her gaze dropping briefly. "Yes, sir, I did. But I assure you, it didn't affect my service." "I know it didn't," Frederick stated, his voice firm. "Because I also heard it. Every word. I was at the table next to you." Rachel's eyes widened in surprise. The realization that he had been an ear witness to the entire exchange, not just a recipient of a complaint, shifted the dynamic completely. "I witnessed your reaction, Rachel," Frederick continued, his voice gaining a quiet intensity. "Your composure, your dignity, your unwavering professionalism in the face of blatant disrespect. Most people would have reacted, either with anger or with submission. You did neither. You simply continued to perform your duties with grace, upholding the standards of this establishment, and more importantly, upholding your own personal integrity." He paused, leaning forward slightly, his gaze piercing. "I built Sterling Hospitality from nothing, Rachel. From a single, humble diner, not unlike the Gilded Plate in its early days, though certainly not as grand. I understand what it means to start from the bottom, to work hard, to earn respect. And I understand that true value is found not in a title or a bank account, but in character. My son, unfortunately, has forgotten these lessons, if he ever truly learned them." Rachel listened, mesmerized, a slow dawning of understanding beginning to unfurl within her. This wasn't a reprimand. This was something else entirely. "This morning," Frederick continued, his voice devoid of emotion, "I terminated Blake's employment with Sterling Hospitality Group, effective immediately. His disrespect for the people who are the backbone of this industry, his arrogance, his lack of understanding of true value, makes him unfit to represent my company, let alone lead it." Rachel gasped softly, a wave of shock washing over her. She couldn't believe it. The billionaire's son, fired. because of her. "Now," Frederick said, his eyes softening slightly, "let's talk about you, Rachel. I've been quietly observing you for a while, even before last night. Your attention to detail, your quiet efficiency, your genuine care for the customers, even the difficult ones. You have a natural aptitude for this industry. But more than that, you have character, you have integrity, and you have a quiet strength that resonates deeply with the values upon which Sterling Gao hospitality was founded." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a sleek leather folder, placing it on the table between them. "I believe in investing in talent, in potential, and in people who embody the core values of my brand. I believe you have the raw talent, the drive, and the character to go far. Very far. Very." He opened the folder, revealing a series of crisp, official-looking documents. "Rachel," Frederick stated, his voice resonating with conviction, "I want to offer you an opportunity, a comprehensive sponsorship for your education, at any university, any program you choose. Full tuition, living expenses, everything. And upon your graduation, I want to offer you a position within Sterling Hospitality Group, not as a waitress, but as a brand ambassador and future executive trainee for my global hospitality empire." He pushed the folder across the table towards her. "This would involve a structured training program, immersing you in every aspect of our operations, from hotel management to strategic development, from international relations to marketing. You would learn the business from the ground up with the best mentors and emerge as a leader within the Sterling brand, representing our values, our vision, and our commitment to excellence." Rachel stared at the folder, then at Frederick Sterling, her mind reeling. Education? A brand ambassador? An executive trainee? It was an offer so monumental, so utterly life-altering, that it felt like a dream. The unspoken dreams she harbored, the desire to learn, to grow, to lead, were suddenly being laid bare, recognized, and offered to her on a silver platter. Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes, a sudden, overwhelming surge of emotion. "Mr. Sterling," she whispered, her voice thick with disbelief and gratitude. I don't know what to say. This is incredible. Why me?" Frederick Sterling offered her a genuine, gentle smile. "Because, Rachel, real leaders don't back down, and true talent, true character should never be ignored. You, my dear, are a diamond in the rough, and I believe in polishing diamonds." He leaned forward, his gaze warm and encouraging. "Take your time, consider the offer, but know that I see immense potential in you, and I believe you are destined for far greater things than just serving tables. Though, I must admit," he added with a twinkle in his eye, "you are exceptional at that too." Rachel looked at the documents, then at the man across from her, the self-made billionaire who had just, with a single act of conviction, rewritten her entire future. The sting of Blake's cruel words from last night faded, replaced by an overwhelming sense of hope, purpose, and an exhilarating terror of the unknown. Her journey, born from a moment of defiant integrity, was about to begin, and it was going to be far grander than she could have ever imagined. The days following Frederick Sterling's offer were a blur of exhilarating decision-making and profound emotional shifts for Rachel. The initial shock slowly gave way to a deep, resonant sense of purpose. She accepted the offer, of course, with a heartfelt sincerity that seemed to genuinely touch Frederick. The prospect of a fully sponsored education, coupled with a direct pathway into the upper echelons of a global hospitality empire, was beyond her wildest dreams. It was a golden ticket, a chance to not just escape her current circumstances, but to truly thrive, to build a future she had only dared to glimpse in her most audacious fantasies. Her first step was to inform Mr. Henderson, the manager of the Gilded Plate, of her departure. He reacted with a mixture of profound sadness at losing his best waitress and immense pride in her extraordinary opportunity. He understood, implicitly, that Rachel was destined for far greater things than his restaurant could offer. The news rippled through the staff, sparking a wave of awe and inspiration. Rachel's story, a real-life Cinderella tale, became a source of whispered hope for others toiling in similar roles. Rachel meticulously planned her exit from the Gilded Plate, ensuring a smooth transition for her colleagues and the restaurant. Her final shift was bittersweet, filled with farewells from regulars who had grown fond of her attentive service and quiet dignity. She left the restaurant that night, not with the usual weight of exhaustion, but with a lightness in her step, a sense of boundless possibility shimmering before her. Her first meeting with Frederick Sterling as his new protégé was in his sprawling, art-filled personal office. He had laid out a preliminary roadmap for her education and executive training. "Rachel," he had explained, his voice calm and reassuring, "this isn't just about obtaining a degree. It's about comprehensive development. You will pursue a business degree, focusing on hospitality management, but you will also delve into areas like international relations, cultural studies, and even psychology. Understanding people, their needs, their motivations, is at the heart of true hospitality and leadership." He then outlined the executive training program. "Upon completion of your academic studies, you'll embark on a rigorous rotation through every facet of Sterling hospitality, from working in our most luxurious hotels in Paris and Tokyo, to understanding our supply chain in Dubai, to developing new brand concepts in New York. You will learn the business from the ground up, but also from the top down. You will be exposed to decision-making at every brash chain level, and you will learn to lead with the same integrity and acumen you demonstrated at the Gilded Plate." End quote. Rachel embraced the challenge with an almost ferocious dedication. She enrolled in a prestigious business school, her days a dizzying whirlwind of lectures, case studies, and late-night study sessions. She was a natural, absorbing complex concepts with remarkable speed, her real-world experience at the diner providing a unique, practical lens through which to view theoretical business models. She excelled academically, her professors often remarking on her insightful contributions and her quiet, determined work ethic. Frederick Sterling remained a constant guiding presence. He met with her monthly, sometimes more often, to discuss her progress, to offer advice, and to subtly challenge her thinking. He became not just a benefactor, but a genuine mentor, sharing invaluable insights gleaned from decades of building his empire. He saw in Rachel a reflection of his younger self, a self-made individual with an unyielding drive and an innate understanding of human connection. Her summer breaks were spent interning at various Sterling hospitality properties, gaining hands-on experience that far outstripped her peers. She worked in hotel front desks, shadowing general managers, observing Michelin star chefs, even spending a week learning the intricacies of large-scale event planning. Each experience broadened her perspective, solidifying her understanding of the complex machinery that made a global hospitality group operate. During one such internship at a bustling resort in the Caribbean, Rachel encountered a situation that tested her burgeoning leadership skills. A major hurricane was approaching, threatening to force an evacuation of guests and staff. The resort manager, overwhelmed and indecisive, struggled to implement the emergency protocols. Rachel, drawing on her innate calmness and her growing knowledge of operational logistics, stepped forward. She took charge of coordinating guest communications, organizing transportation, and ensuring the safety of vulnerable staff members. She moved with an efficiency and clear-headedness that impressed everyone, including the seasoned emergency response teams. Her actions, taken under immense pressure, mitigated panic and ensured a smooth, safe evacuation. Frederick Sterling, receiving reports from his regional directors, was immensely proud. After 2 years of intensive study, Rachel graduated with top honors, her business degree a tangible symbol of her relentless effort and undeniable intellect. The transition into her role as brand ambassador and executive trainee was seamless. Her first major assignment was to revitalize the customer experience across Sterling Hospitality's flagship hotel chain, the Sterling Grand Collection. This was a significant challenge. While financially successful, the Sterling Grand Hotels had developed a reputation for being somewhat impersonal, focusing on luxury without truly connecting with their high-net-worth clientele on an emotional IA level. Blake's earlier dismissal of "just a server" inadvertently highlighted this very flaw, a disconnect between the perception of service and the human element. Rachel approached the task with her characteristic blend of analytical rigor and empathetic understanding. She didn't just review customer satisfaction scores, she traveled to various Sterling Grand properties, working incognito in various roles, from concierge to bellhop, to truly experience the customer journey from their perspective. She held extensive workshops with staff at all levels, emphasizing the importance of genuine connection, personalized service, and anticipating unspoken needs. Her core philosophy, shaped by her own experiences, was simple yet profound. True luxury isn't just about opulence, it's about feeling seen, valued, and genuinely cared for. She implemented small but impactful changes, personalized welcome notes from hotel general managers, tailored recommendations based on guest preferences, and empowered frontline staff to resolve issues independently and creatively. She even introduced a Dignity of Service training program, reminding all staff that every role, from housekeeping to executive chef, was integral to the overall guest experience, and that mutual respect was paramount. The results were transformative. Customer satisfaction scores soared. Guest loyalty increased dramatically. The Sterling Grand Collection, once seen as merely luxurious, now became synonymous with unparalleled personalized service. Rachel's initiatives generated significant positive press, highlighting her innovative approach to hospitality and reinforcing Sterling Hospitality's reputation as an industry leader. Frederick Sterling observed her progress with immense satisfaction. He had known she possessed potential, but her impact had far exceeded his already high expectations. He often brought her to high-level board meetings, not just as an observer, but as a valued contributor, seeking her unique perspective on complex strategic challenges. Her clear, concise presentations, her ability to cut through corporate jargon to the core of an issue, earned her the respect of even the most seasoned executives. One evening, after a particularly successful quarterly review, Frederick invited Rachel to dinner at the Gilded Plate, the very restaurant where their paths had first dramatically intersected. The ambiance was familiar, comforting. Rachel felt a profound sense of gratitude as she sat across from him, no longer his employee, but his trusted colleague, his protégé. "Rachel," Frederick said, raising his wine glass, his eyes twinkling, "to your extraordinary achievements. You have not only exceeded every expectation, but you have also validated my most deeply held beliefs about leadership. You have proven that integrity, empathy, and hard work are indeed the most powerful assets in any endeavor." Rachel smiled, a genuine, radiant smile that reflected her inner peace and profound contentment. "Thank you, Mr. Sterling. I owe it all to you. You saw something in me when no one else did. You gave me a chance, and you believed in me." Frederick lowered his glass, his expression becoming serious. "I simply provided the canvas, Rachel. You painted the masterpiece. And speaking of masterpieces," he paused, his gaze thoughtful, "my primary focus has always been the strategic direction and long-term vision of Sterling Hospitality. But the day-to-day operations of a global empire, while meticulously managed by my exceptional team, require a consistent, singular vision at the top, a vision that aligns with the future of the hospitality industry, a future you are uniquely positioned to shape." He leaned forward, his voice low but firm, a clear resonance of the man who had fired his own son for disrespect. My CEO is retiring at the end of the year. I have considered many candidates, both internal and external, but there is only one person who truly embodies the spirit of Sterling hospitality, who understands SASH, its foundation, and who possesses the foresight and empathy to lead it into the next generation." End quote. He looked directly at Rachel, his eyes holding a profound trust and unwavering belief. "Rachel, I am offering you the position of Chief Executive Officer of Sterling Hospitality Group." The words hung in the air, a breathtaking culmination of a journey that had begun with a cruel laugh and a defiant silence. CEO of a multi-billion-dollar global empire. It was an almost unfathomable leap from just a server. But as Rachel looked at Frederick Sterling, at the man who had seen her worth when others only saw her uniform, she felt no fear, only a deep sense of readiness. She had learned, she had grown, and she had proven, time and again, that true leadership was not inherited but earned, through integrity, humility, and the unwavering courage to stand for what is right. She was ready to lead. The unexpected gift had become a transformative destiny. The weight of the new title, Chief Executive Officer of Sterling Hospitality Group, settled upon Rachel not as a burden, but as a mantle of immense responsibility and profound purpose. Her acceptance of Frederick Sterling's offer was met with a mixture of quiet awe and genuine excitement within the company's executive ranks. Many had witnessed her meteoric rise, from the diligent waitress at the Gilded Plate to the innovative director of community development, and they recognized the intrinsic merit of her appointment. Frederick Sterling had, through his bold decision, signaled a new era for his empire, one built on merit, integrity, and a deep understanding of the human element in hospitality. Rachel's transition into the CEO role was meticulously orchestrated, a testament to Frederick's thorough planning and her own relentless work ethic. For the first few months, she worked alongside the outgoing CEO, a seasoned veteran named Richard Maxwell, who gracefully guided her through the intricacies of global corporate management, stakeholder relations, and high-level strategic partnerships. Richard, initially somewhat skeptical of Frederick's unconventional choice, quickly became one of Rachel's most ardent supporters, deeply impressed by her sharp intellect, her insatiable curiosity, and her genuine humility. He recognized that her fresh perspective, unburdened by decades of corporate dogma, was precisely what Sterling Hospitality needed to evolve. One of Rachel's first major initiatives as CEO was to launch the Global Guest Experience Innovation Lab. This wasn't merely a research and development department. It was a collaborative hub designed to crowdsource ideas from employees at all levels, from hotel staff to executive chefs, across all Sterling properties, worldwide. Rachel believed that the most valuable insights often came from those on the front lines, those who interacted directly with guests every day. She fostered an environment where every idea, no matter how small, was considered, evaluated, and potentially scaled. This initiative revitalized employee engagement, making every staff member feel like a vital part of the company's continuous improvement. Under her leadership, Sterling Hospitality also deepened its commitment to sustainable and ethical practices. Rachel spearheaded initiatives to reduce the company's carbon footprint, invest in renewable energy sources for hotels, and partner with fair trade suppliers for all their products. She believed that true luxury extended beyond lavish amenities. It encompassed a responsible approach to the planet and its people. This commitment resonated deeply with a growing segment of their discerning clientele and garnered significant positive press, further burnishing Sterling Hospitality's brand image. Blake, her one-time tormentor, faded into a distant memory, a cautionary tale whispered in hushed tones within the company. Rachel occasionally heard fragmented reports of his attempts to find new employment, his struggles with adapting to a world where his family name no longer opened every door. She felt no malice, only a quiet reaffirmation of the justice in Frederick Sterling's decision. Blake's arrogance had been his undoing, while Rachel's integrity had been her ascension. Frederick Sterling, now largely retired from day-to-day operations, remained chairman of the board. He observed Rachel's work with a profound sense of satisfaction, his occasional visits to the headquarters always marked by long, insightful discussions with his new CEO. Their relationship had evolved into a deep, mutual respect, almost like that of a father and a brilliant, capable daughter. He sought his legacy not just in the empire he had built, but in the values Rachel now championed, ensuring his company would thrive for generations, guided by a compass of integrity and human connection. A significant challenge arose approximately 18 months into Rachel's tenure as CEO. A powerful competitor, Apex Resorts, launched an aggressive campaign to acquire several key Sterling hospitality properties in lucrative markets. Apex was known for its cutthroat business practices and a singular focus on short-term profits, often at the expense of employee welfare and guest experience. The proposed acquisitions threatened to undermine Sterling's strategic presence in critical regions and potentially dilute its brand reputation. The board was divided. Some members, swayed by Apex's seemingly lucrative offer, argued for cashing out on the targeted properties. Others, loyal to Sterling's core values, advocated for fighting the hostile takeover. Rachel, however, saw an opportunity not just to defend, but to demonstrate Sterling Hospitality's unique strength. During a tense board meeting, she laid out her counter-strategy. "Gentlemen, ladies," she began, her voice calm but firm. Apex Resorts operates on a predatory model. They see properties as mere assets to be bought and sold, not as living, breathing establishments. Their offer, while financially enticing on the surface, is a trap. Acquiring these properties would not only damage our market position, but also signal a compromise of our fundamental values. We cannot allow our brand, built on integrity and unparalleled guest experience, to be associated with such a transactional approach. She continued, "My proposal is not to simply defend against Apex, but to outmaneuver them through a strategic and values-driven offensive. We will not sell. Instead, we will initiate a rapid, targeted revitalization and reinvestment program in each of the properties Apex is targeting. We will inject capital into upgrades, enhance amenities, and launch aggressive, localized marketing campaigns that emphasize our commitment to the communities and our unparalleled guest experience. We will showcase the tangible difference of a Sterling property versus a soulless acquisition. Furthermore," Rachel added, a glint in her eye, "we will leverage our global guest experience innovation lab. We will launch a company-wide challenge, inviting employees from these specific properties to submit proposals for innovative guest experiences and community engagement programs. Best ideas will receive immediate funding and implementation. This will not only empower our staff, but also create truly unique offerings that Apex, with its top-down, profit-driven model, cannot replicate." Apex's weakness is its lack of genuine connection, its inability to understand the human element of hospitality, Rachel concluded. "Our strength is precisely that connection. We will not win this battle by outspending them, but by outvaluing them, by demonstrating that Sterling Hospitality offers something far more profound than just a room. It offers an unparalleled experience, built on respect, integrity, and genuine care. Apex wants to buy our assets. We will show them that our true assets are our people and our values." The board, initially skeptical, was swayed by Rachel's conviction, her meticulous planning, and the undeniable success of her previous initiatives. Frederick Sterling, listening intently from his seat as chairman, offered a rare approving nod, a silent endorsement of her bold vision. The Sterling Strong Initiative, as Rachel named it, was launched with unprecedented speed and enthusiasm. She personally visited each targeted property, rallying staff, listening to their ideas, and communicating her unwavering belief in their collective strength. The rapid upgrades, the innovative guest programs, and the palpable sense of renewed purpose within the Sterling properties became a powerful counter-narrative to Apex's aggressive acquisition attempts. Guests, loyal to Sterling's consistent quality and now aware of the hostile takeover bid, actively chose to support the hotels under threat, becoming de facto ambassadors for the brand. Apex Resorts, unprepared for such a dynamic and values-driven defense, found their acquisition strategy faltering. Their attempts to portray Sterling hospitality as financially vulnerable were undermined by glowing customer reviews and vibrant community engagement. The Sterling Strong initiative didn't just fend off the hostile takeover, it significantly boosted Sterling's brand reputation, solidifying its position as an industry leader dedicated to ethical practices, unparalleled guest satisfaction. Apex eventually retreated, their predatory bid thwarted by a CEO who understood that true power lay in principle, not just profit. Rachel, standing at the pinnacle of the global hospitality industry, looked back at her journey. From the bustling, often thankless role of a waitress to leading an empire, her life was a testament to the unexpected paths that integrity and resilience could forge. The memory of Blake's sneering laughter, once a painful sting, was now a distant echo, a faint reminder of the moment that had, ironically, set her on this extraordinary trajectory. She had proven that dignity always triumphs over arrogance, and that some dreams, born in the most unexpected of fires, can indeed reshape an entire world. Her story, a beacon of hope for countless others, continued to inspire, proving that true leadership is often found in the most unassuming of places, waiting for a chance to shine.